You're watching Drakewing Gaming. Enjoy the video.
Hey guys and gals, Never here from Drakewing Gaming, and somebody on Twitter, the Gaming Drag. Today I'm coming back at you with a Let's Play episode of A Fall from Grace. Anyway, y'all, let's go ahead and jump right back into it, shall we? Alarm chain, we're up, and let's go. Alright. Cedric felt strong emotions beginning to well up, his eyes dampened by tears. You have nothing to apologize for. It's on me, it always is. I can't get one fucking thing right in my life. Fox slammed his left leg down, lifting up a small cloud of dust when his boot hit the ground. V, darling, it's all right. Apologizing shows your inner strength. Lord knows how many people I've met who have not been able to form an apology, even for the smallest things. It's ridiculous. I don't want to lose you, Cedric. Tears were streaming down the bandit's cheeks. I always put myself and my own needs before anyone else's. I never put myself in other people's shoes. I'm tired of not listening. I'm tired of making mistakes when I do things others have warned me not to do. I don't want to leave you behind. Not you too. Victor shook his fist, bending forward and speaking between sobs. Cedric got up from the bed and walked over to where his partner was sitting. He wanted to pull him in for the warmest embrace, but despite his best effort, he couldn't even lift a finger and stood frozen in his place, unable to make physical contact. The feeling of regret for what he'd said to Victor earlier had stung him and was growing stronger by the minute. I'm scared, Cedric. I'm scared of messing up and losing you. I've lost so much already. You were right. I am a hypocrite. I've done so many things without consulting you, so many things that ended up upsetting you. I did them thinking they'd make you happy, but I was only thinking about myself instead, as bloody usual. The fox's sobs grew fainter, as he leant forward and buried his muzzle into Cedric's waistcoat. Upon feeling his partner's touch, and thereby knowing he had permission to return the affection, the coyote finally succeeded in lifting his arms, and gently ran his hands along Victor's back without saying a word. As for that giant monolith of mine, Victor chose his next words carefully. It is tough for me not to feel resentment towards the upper classes. I've seen what they've done to people like me, my family, and my friends. But you're different. You've shown me I was wrong. There's nuance in everything, even in this. Can you forgive me? Cedric sighed. I was wrong, too. It was foolish of me to expect us to always see eye to eye on everything. We're not the same person. We each have our own thoughts and lived experiences. We're not even the same people we used to be a few years ago. Our own selves have a way of constantly shifting. I've been holding on to this image of our past for so long it ended up clouding my judgment. Worst of all, I've been holding you to the standard of who I remembered you to be, instead of who you are. I don't want to disappoint you. The coyote kept speaking, unable to focus on anything but wording his own thoughts as well as he could manage. I want to let go of all that and get to know you, Victor. I remember who you were, but I need to learn who you are right now. And same goes for me. I want you to get to know me and everything about me. Including all the mistakes and stupid life decisions I've made. Dion was right. We're not children anymore. When did he say that? Victor's voice was still faint. He asked me to have a talk with him earlier, and I managed to knock some sense into me. A moment of silence followed as the fox took a deep breath, lifting his head and slowly moving away from Cedric. He's right. I need to stop forcing myself to act a certain way. To be who my mind tells me I once was. If I truly love you, I need to be open with you. As do I. Instead of expecting you to behave a certain way. We can't just solve everything and smooth things out instantly, but we can take the first of many steps towards being happier together and working better as a couple. Victor nodded, resting his head on his right hand and closing his eyes for a few seconds. Cedric took a few steps back, sitting down on the soft bed again. I'd like to learn more about what happened during the time we spent apart. If you're comfortable explaining some of it to me, and it doesn't have to be right now, of course. It's all right. There's one thing I think you ought to know in particular. Before I met the rest of the masquerade, I knew someone else. As in, another bandit. Though of course the jobs we got up to then were nothing compared to what I or any of you would be able to pull off nowadays. We were very close, though I don't think I could call it more than friendship. It felt very different to what you and I have now. But still, there was a strong bond between us, and we swore we'd get through hard times together. His name was Eves. He gave me the strength to keep going after losing my family. It was a connection I was desperately in need of at that moment. And it helped. It really did. I don't know where I could have ended up if I hadn't met him by chance. But as much as I appreciated it, our bond didn't last. As time went on, we began to drift apart, and despite sharing the same hideout and still planning our robberies together, feelings grew colder between us. Then one day, a risky heist we'd planned started turning ugly. I could see no way out of it for both of us, but all I knew was I didn't want to end up behind bars a second time. We were in a small mansion cellar, and I was just about to climb out of a window. That's when a couple of guards appeared behind us, chasing after Eves as he ran behind me. I managed to get out and turned around to lend him a hand, only to see more guards outdoors to my left heading for me. If I made a quick run for it, I would have caught them by surprise and managed a quick getaway. I didn't have time to think. It all happened so quickly, I wish this wasn't so hard to talk about. He took another deep breath before resuming his story. Next thing I knew, I was safe, and I was alive. But I'd left another person behind. I'd abandoned them. Upon seeing him on the verge of tears again, Cedric picked out the handkerchief tucked in his waistcoat, handing it to Victor, much like the fox had done the evening the two lovers first shared a kiss. Eves gifted me the pendant I still wear to this day. That's all I have left. I keep it as a reminder, not as to what I could have been, but as to hold myself accountable for what I'd done. If he's managed to avoid the gallows and make it out of jail in one piece, he'd probably kill me should he set eyes on me again. I know our relationship is different, but I have this fear that what happened with him might happen with you, albeit not in the same way. I wouldn't even have anything to remember you by. I lost a chess piece like an idiot, the one you gifted me when we set off on our journey. The coyote shook his head in an attempt to reassure Victor this detail wasn't a big deal. Never mind about that. It's all right. Before meeting the others, I was afraid I'd never be able to build a connection with other people without somehow managing to break it or sour it eventually. So I've tried so hard not to let you down. I'm just worried there's not much to me beneath the surface. V, it's all right. Seriously. All we can do is learn from these experiences. We both messed up. Now it's up to us to mend things together. We'll start again tomorrow. Victor managed a timid smile. It feels quite surreal, but I'm glad I've told you this. Thank you for sharing it with me. Despite how tough this whole conversation had been, it had left Cedric feeling hopeful. This wasn't going to be as smooth as he assumed at first, but this was a road they were both willing to travel. After a little while, Victor pitched the idea of an evening walk, which Cedric gladly accepted after having spent most of the day sitting or lying down. They quietly set off and followed the stream near the camp, gradually leaving the area they'd grown familiar with. They let the sound of the watercourse guide them on their journey, taking the opportunity to fill a couple of flasks they'd chosen to carry with them. The dark shapes of the ancient trees all around reminded Cedric of warm and friendly guides, accompanying the lovers on their way along the wood's hidden paths. There was something almost primordial about this night walk. It filled the coyote with the same wild impression he'd felt when riding back to camp the prior evening, that of letting go of who he was and being at one with the landscape surrounding him. It was as if he and the rest of the masquerade belonged here, hidden in the murk, gently flowing in the wind like the boughs of a secular willow, just one of the wood's countless secrets that could be lost to time. The breeze wrestled against his fur, murmuring on its way and blending in with nature's other sounds, creating a sweet music that animals of Cedric's kind can only attempt to recreate without even coming close to the original. The coyote swore he could hear actual music now, the sound of a distant piper echoing between hills and tree trunks. It was a sweet, melancholy tune, quite unlike anything he'd ever heard in a tavern, a theater, or even a ballroom. It was as if the tune itself had sprung up from the soil, just as all the plants around them had. He wanted to open his mouth and speak to Victor, just to ask the fox if he could hear it too. But he wasn't able to. He knew once he did so, the sorcerous notion would evaporate, vanishing as rapidly as it had appeared. No, he wanted to experience this for a little longer. Even just a moment would feel like enough. He turned to look at Victor walking beside him. Was this even still Victor? The moon had disappeared behind some thick clouds, and he couldn't quite make the fox's shape out in the dark. But he could feel his presence near him, and he hadn't a trace of fear. This was the Victor he knew, the Victor he felt safe with. The boughs surrounding them were shaped like thick curtains shielding them from the outside world. Maybe this was all an illusion, an otherworldly vision, the work of benevolent woodland spirits watching over him, keeping him safe. The ground they were treading on was beginning to rise, and the two quickened their pace, excitedly waiting to reach the top of this hill they'd only just discovered. They soon felt the terrain level out as the bright moon reappeared in the night sky. Pretty. Victor brushed the leaf curtains aside, revealing a breathtaking view of the surrounding landscape concealed behind them, stretching far out towards the horizon, as far as the eye could see. The sight of the rolling hills, the dark forests, the picturesque villages, and distant pathways was overwhelming. For a moment, none of it even felt real. Cedric was reminded of the evening he and the fox had walked on the rooftops of the houses neighboring the bandits' hideout of their old town. He felt lucky, privileged to be in that spot at the time. He and Victor held hands as they gazed outwards. This is something I'm not going to forget for a long, long time. Victor smiled. I already know I'm going to look back at this moment. I just wish I had some parchment and charcoal. I'd ask you to sketch this landscape for me. Lakota pondered the idea. I'm not sure. I feel like it would lose its magic that way. Perhaps you're right. We'll just have to hold it in our thoughts as a memory. Aye, like the memories of all those sweet summer days we spent together. Cedric was unable to restrain himself from speaking his mind as a wave of nostalgia hit him. If only I could go back to them, even just for a moment. The fox shook his head. That's wishful thinking, my dear. You said it yourself earlier. There's no changing or recreating the past. That's the reason we end up dwelling on it so much. Too much. To the point we might end up remembering what was never real in the first place. All that has been, both good and bad. If you try to view that in a positive light, it can be quite encouraging, I feel. You're right. What we need to focus on now is moving forward together and getting to know each other anew, including all our similarities and differences. I'm sorry for getting carried away. I promise I'll do my best. For both of us. The couple gently held hands, gazing at the rolling hills surrounding them. I promise too. The two stood there for a while, allowing the cool evening breeze to gently blow their fur. This moment, like all the ones previous, wouldn't last forever. It was better to cherish it while it still was. Victor took a deep breath before turning around, ready to head back downhill again. Cedric soon followed, though not without glancing at the landscape one last time. He could already feel the magic grow fainter as they both made their way back to the camp, listening out for the sound of the stream. You reckon anyone else has ever stood in that spot besides us? If only trees could talk, my dear. Cedric chuckled, before growing thoughtful as he recalled all they just experienced. One day we should return to this forest, and seek that hill out again. I like that idea. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pause it right there. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and check out our Patreon or YouTube memberships if you can. It always helps. Anyway, I love you all, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye!